Okay. Now here's my qualifier. All right. I started this program, this one that you're going to see. I started putting it together 5 years ago. And each year when I see it, I dig into more and I read more and I find out more. And I've even changed my views on certain things. But it's not meant to disparage any thoughts you have on Christmas or the Christmas story. Okay. If you're comfortable with all the words from the Bible, which is a great source, they're all proper words. There's nothing misleading there. Then that's fine. I'm just giving you. There are some things that don't make sense unless you have the background on it. Herod issues a decree to kill all the children, firstborn, 2 years and younger. Why? If everything happened on Christmas Eve, why 2 years and younger? Why not just kill the children that were just born? So that's what started me thinking. And then I started thinking of a lot of things that didn't make sense to me or needed an answer. Like when Gabriel goes to Mary and says, "Fear not." And then I read that Mary was actually, and as I told you with the Theotokos, you were here last week, most of you, and Vlad, you got this in our Sunday school class, that the Theotokos was actually raised in the temple, the temple of the Jews, and that Gabriel came daily to visit her and actually bring her food. So why does he have to say to her, "Don't be afraid, fear not"? She wasn't afraid of him. All right. So things like this started to ring in my head here, and I started to look up the information. So that's where we're going to go tonight. Okay, I'm going to take you through all the steps. Now, some of these things I may have covered when we did the Theotokos, because everything starts with her. All those things that we talked about a couple weeks ago, or last week, and everything, the Theotokos is what everything starts with, the Annunciation, right? And I'm going to try, if I cover some things twice, it's because I've got students on here too who didn't get the other parts. That's why they're on tonight, Joshua and Vlad. All right. So let me ask you a question. Which of these sources describes the birth of Jesus? The Gospel of Matthew and Luke, the apocryphal accounts, which include the Proto-Evangelium of James and the infancy, and the Old Testament, or original icons, old icons, in other words. Any guessers? Well,
the Gospel of Matthew and Luke.
Hey, Tess, how are you?
Yeah, that's my answer. A.
Okay. Everybody agree?
I'm going to guess all of the above.
Atta girl, Dawn.
Oh, Dawn, you upstaged me.
Yeah, she upstaged you. She got you.
Oh, boy.
All of the above. All of them.
It's Missy, not Dawn.
Was that Missy? I don't see your name up here, Missy.
Okay.
I think I must have been thinking really loudly. That's why I said. I was thinking this.
There you are, Missy. Atta girl. You remember that from the first year? Missy was one of my first students in Sunday school. It goes way back. But that's right. That's the answer. It's all of them. And this year I had to add D, because I didn't have that before, because I started reading some things, and you'll see. I've got some icon. We will touch base on all of these, okay? And again, the apocryphal accounts, none of the apocryphal writings are dogma of the church, okay? It's it's just additional writing that John mentions in his gospel. The very last paragraph in his gospel states, and I think I told you this before, that there was so much that the Lord said that the pages would go all the way around the world if they lined them up. So but even Father Andreas on two successive weekends and Sunday in church in his sermon mentioned the Proto-Evangelium of James specifically, because the conception of Anna, of the Virgin Mary, and her presentation into the temple are both from the Proto-Evangelium of James. They're not anywhere in the Bible. as you notice, the Gospel of Matthew and Luke are the only two that mention the birth of Christ. The others start later, and that's the only two that have the story of it. So we're going to take a little bit from every one of these areas here.
See, I
Okay.
was a little bit right, Gerry.
Yeah, you were a little bit right. You weren't wrong. You were there. Hey, Charles. I see Charles is on there, Mr. Kuklas. Good, nice to have you. And there's my wife. Hey, Helen. Okay.
My sister is on tonight.
Debbie, she is?
Gerry, her name's
Good.
Angelica. I don't know why she's hiding her face.
Oh, was that Angelica? I saw her. I could see
That's
the
my
top of her
sister
head.
from Charleston. So we have 3 Limini on tonight.
Oh, boy. We're going to start a club here. All right, here we go. You ready? Now, I'm not going to go into this one. We've seen this, but the first part of the story started way back with, of course, with Joachim and Anna, in the fact that they, that's their daughter, Mary, and she became their daughter. They were barren; they could not have children, and they prayed constantly, asking for a child. And if they got a child, they said they would dedicate her to the temple. And we believe that Mary was raised in the temple that Zacharias, who would be John the Baptist's father, was the head priest there. And so, Mary, starts right out being in the temple. And the reason that's so important, we talk about it all the time, is so that we can understand that they were trying to preserve her purity. Okay, because she is born the way we are, the same way we are, with the we don't believe in the original sin. We believe in ancestral sin, that our ancestors had the sin, but unlike the Catholic Church, which says that sin, the guilt of that sin is passed on to all of us. We don't. That is not Orthodox doctrine. We recognize that we inherited the result of the original sin. Okay, and that's what we're faced with. So Mary was born with the result of the original sin, and therefore they tried to preserve her purity, and that's why they had her raised in the temple, and that's why so many in the line of that family, the lineage of that family, so many could not have children because they were trying to preserve the purity of the family as much as possible. Okay, here she is being presented to the temple. We covered that with the Theotokos, and that's Zacharias, and there's Joachim and Anna, Joachim. All right, now, I know I talked a little bit about this one, but like I say, I've got 2 students on today. And I want them to hear this. This icon gives us a lot of information about the birth of Christ. It gives us the date, and it shows Gabriel in a running position with an urgent message to tell the Virgin that she's going to be the mother of God. And her reaction at first, you see, she's got her hand up. Whoa, wait a minute, and and that's where Gabriel says, fear not, Mary, because he sees her back off. Fear not, for you have found favor in God, and you're going to, and he explains to her what's going to happen. And then she says, well, not my will, whatever God wants of me, I will do. And she agrees to it, to be the mother. But sort of gives you, again, an understanding now of the words, fear not. It wasn't a fear of this angel all of a sudden appearing in front of her. The fear was the responsibility of being the mother of God, of Jesus. How can that be? How can I be the mother of Jesus? And that answers that question. It's interesting. She's on a throne. You could see seated here. And at this point, the Holy Spirit is coming down now. She is higher than even the order of the angels. She's above the angels at this point. And if you look in this hand here, this is the icon that's on the doorway of the iconostasio, right? That we see every Sunday. And if you look at her right hand, she's got a spool of yarn here. She's actually knitting the curtain to the temple. That was her job. She was the seamstress there. And so she's knitting this curtain to the temple when Gabriel comes to her. And we're going to show you the exact spot where this happened. This is a great icon. I just love this one because it says so much. Okay. All right, let's go on now. Let's see. Now, if we go back to where that icon I showed you of Mary going to the temple, Josephus over here, he is a historian. He's a great historian. And we got a lot of the history from him. So I have a couple books from him, and it's very interesting because he's back at that time. He's closer to the story than most people who've written things. And he writes that Zacharias saw his vision of Gabriel. That's where Gabriel came and said, hey, your wife, Elizabeth, is going to have a child. And that child's going to be John the Baptist. And Zacharias says to Gabriel, he said, no way. We're in the 90s. We're too old. We can't have children now. And he sort of laughed at it and he mocked it. And this upset God and Gabriel. And so he was made so he couldn't speak. He became a mute. And he stayed that way until after the birth of John the Baptist. And that's a big thing for a priest not to be able to talk, right? So that was some punishment he got. But the reason I have that here is that he saw this vision of Gabriel in the temple while he was celebrating the holiday of atonement, which is the 10th of September. Now, Luke 1:24 says, now after those days, his wife Elizabeth conceived. We celebrate the birth of St. John. He conceived St. John on September 24th. Okay? These are dates that are in the Bible now. So now let's go to the next thing. So Luke 1:26 says, now in the 6th month, 6 months later, the angel Gabriel goes to Mary. That's the icon I just showed you of the Annunciation, March 25th. Okay? So just count 6 months from September 24th and you get March 25th. Right? Or March 24th if you want. And then you count 9 months from there and you got December 25th. And that's how the date of the birth of Christ was determined. And I know that Father Stavro, was it last week, said that we're not sure the day of the birth. To me, it's really clear. It's in the Bible, right? It's right there in front of us. So, they say that December was a bad month because the shepherds would not have been out there, with their sheep and everything, because it would be too cold. Well, I've been there in the month of December, and I remember I've been there 4 times now, and I remember at each time I'm in there in short sleeves walking around. Okay, it's the desert, so I'm okay with December 25th. So and I use this information from the Bible to confirm that to me. So now, just want the thought here. If I have told you this, you can raise your hands and and I'll stop and I'll move on. Originally, the calendar was off in calculation when they laid out the calendar. Now there are 2 calendars out there now, the Julian and the Gregorian. We follow the Gregorian calendar. When I say we, the Orthodox Church, and that's the new calendar. That was put together by Pope Gregory, and it's called the Gregorian calendar. Now, the original calendars prior to Julius Caesar started with March, and I can prove that to you, okay? If you look at those 3 months that are listed there, September means 7 in Latin. October, for the Greeks, is 8, ochto, right? December is 10, all right? Then yet, September is the 9th month, not the 7th month. October is the 8th month, 10th month, not the 8th month. And December, of course, 10 is the 12th month in our calendar, but December, really literally means the 10th month. Did I say that right? Yeah. So you can see the calendar was off in months. It was really based on a 10-month scale instead of 12 months. And Julius Caesar was the first to correct that, all right? But his calendar was still off. So Pope Gregory had this guy named Dionysius Exiguus, as you see his name there, it was his job to straighten the calendar out. And he added, that's where we got AD and BC. He started with the birth of Christ. So this birth date of Christ now starts with and goes forward, it's all AD. Ado Domino, I think it is, whatever it is. Anyhow, so you got 1 AD, 2 AD. Anything prior to that was BC. 1 BC, 2 BC, 3 BC. And that's how the calendar was put together. However, this Dionysius Exogus, his name literally means Dennis the Short. Well, he shorted the calendar because he made a big mistake here. All right. He started with the year 1. And he couldn't have started with the year 1 because Christ wasn't born a 1-year-old. He was born a 0-year-old. Right? He was born in 0. He left out the 0. He should have had 0, then 1, 2, 3, and then 0, minus 1, minus 2, minus 3 as BC. Do you follow? And so the calendar is off by 2 years in calculation. And that's why at Easter time we have such trouble, with the calendar between our church and the Catholic Church. Because at Easter, for some reason, and no one's clear on the reason. I've really studied this, and there's no clear reason why. Even Father Steve asked me if I knew the reason why. They went back to the Hebrews, to the old calendar. But the formula is the first full moon. There it is down there. The formula for the Easter day is the first full moon following the vernal equinox, provided that the Hebrew Passover had been completed. Now, I was told by a priest after studying this that the reason that they changed it was because the date kept falling on the Passover date, and we didn't want to celebrate. Technically, at Easter, we're celebrating Passover. The word in Greek for Easter is Pascha, and Pascha means Passover. It doesn't mean Easter. Easter is a Western word. So they didn't. The clergy at that time, going back a few years, didn't want to celebrate the new Passover, which is Christ, while the Jews who crucified him were celebrating the Hebrew Passover. Okay. What happens here in this formula, if Passover hadn't been completed, then they have to go a whole full cycle again, another 40 days. That's why sometimes, we're in May and they're in early April. But that's how it is. I don't buy that as the answer, but that's what someone gave me. And like I said, I've really researched that. If anybody ever finds the answer to that, please let me know. Okay, but that is why we have two different. Actually, we got to be thankful for having Easter so late, after with this with the calendar, because we get our Easter eggs cheaper, we get our clothes cheaper, we come out ahead. It was a great thing. All right, let's move on now. So now, Gabriel, do not be afraid, Mary. You have found favor with God, and behold, you will conceive in your womb and bring forth a son, and he shall be called Jesus. Okay, that's what happened here. And here's another version of that icon. So we're not going to go through any more on this. I think I've covered that enough. And I can't read that. The well that Gabriel first spoke to Mary. Okay. These pictures are the ones that I took in Jerusalem. Now I'm standing up top here looking down. Everything in Jerusalem is either under the ground or up on a hill. Nothing's street level, nothing. Everything is down or up. So this well, there's the well back there, and here's a closer look of it. I was taking this picture, and I had my sunglasses on, and I took them off and I put them in my shirt, right up here. And I leaned over to take the picture, and all of a sudden I heard a clank. And all that went through my head was that some fool just lost his glasses down there. I didn't realize it was me, that I was the fool. And in fact, they're right there. There's my Ray-Bans right there. And I was shocked, man. And then Bishop Alexios was on the trip with me. And he says, you dropped your glasses. I said, I know. I said, I need them. I need my sunglasses. And the priest of that parish was there with him. And he told me, he said, well, you see this gate over here is a gate. You can't see it that well. And those are steps that go down. That's how they care for it. He says, just go down and get them. So I walked down to the well itself. I was down here at the very spot that Gabriel spoke to Mary. And I stayed there. And they had to keep hollering at me. Bishop said, Gerry, come on up. Come on out. And I had to, I didn't want to leave it. I just wanted to stay there. But the glasses were on like a grate that was there. They were swinging like this on the grate. I finally got them back. So anyhow, you don't want to know about my glasses. I just want to. And there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed. All right, we know that. And but what happened here? This is a great icon, another great icon of the Nativity. This has the whole story right there. And notice the structures of the mountains. The mountains are very structured. They're not smoothed out like mountains aren't. Mountains don't look like this. All right, and that's to show that Christ was going to have some, a difficult ministry. He had some rough road ahead of him. So everything in an icon tells us something. This is one of the more interesting things, and I covered this before with you, but like I said, I got my 2 students on here. In every icon that you see in the Nativity, you'll see these 2 animals there. And it's from the book of Isaiah, and one of the prophecies. It says that even the animals will have a better understanding of who Christ was than the people will. The people will not understand him. And I just think that's an amazing thing. Just the thought. So you always find this ox and the ass are always there. Okay. It's not from the shepherds or anything. The shepherds are over here. Here we've got the shepherds, and there's the angel talking to the shepherds. Hark the herald angels sing, okay? But it was only one angel that spoke to the shepherds. Then the Bible says afterwards that, and then there was a multitude of angels singing to the heavenly hosts. And so there's the multitude singing, it's a separate picture from the first approach, which was the angel. That's why it's hard. If you read the music and it's properly written, it says, hark the herald angel sings. Okay, so let's look a few more things here. We got Joseph over in the corner here, sort of looking dejected. He's, sitting there like this. And that's because Christ can't have 2 fathers. When Christ starts his ministry, when he's 13, starts talking in the temple, he can't, when he says my father, he's talking about God, they're going to think it's Joseph. So he can't have 2 fathers at this point. So we don't see Joseph much after the events of the birth of Christ. We see him one time in the temple where they're looking for him, for Christ, and Joseph and Mary were there. And that's the one time we see something of Mary and Joseph later. Joseph disappears after that. It doesn't even say where he dies or how he dies or what. But that's why he's looking a little disgruntled down here, because he's not going to be there for the full story of the ministry of Christ. And over here we got my favorite wise men over here. Now, again, I got students on here, so I got to explain this. So forgive me if you've heard this several times. But the wise men, it's real interesting. Let me see if I have that on the next slide. Yeah. Now, this is a picture of an icon that's in a church in Ravenna that we just saw on the last trip that what we did, in the last pilgrimage. And here's where the icons come into play that I mentioned earlier. Right up above it, you see Gaspar, Melchior, and Balthazar, the 3 names of the wise men. All right. So somewhere they got this. Now I think it's in the Proto-Evangelium of James. I think you'll find that. But that's the 3 names that we use for the wise men. And Father Stavros said last week that. And it's true, there's no mention in the New Testament how many wise men there were. It never says there were 3 wise men. We did that. The understanding because of the 3 gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. So it's 3 gifts. But Father Stavros said there may have been as many as 18 wise men. I can't find anything to say that. I haven't found that at all anywhere. I'm sticking with 3. Okay. Now, look at the clothing. This is very unique. They got pants on here. These are horseback riding garments. Okay, this is horseback riding outfits. So they didn't travel by camels, they traveled by horseback. And all the iconography shows that. Even the one that we just looked at. Look over here closely. Those are horses. See? We got horseback. They're the wise men. They came on horseback. And the other thing is, you notice they're off in the distance. All right. They never made it to the stable. All right. So if you got camels in your nativity scene under your tree, leave them there. It's okay. Don't sweat it. It's all right. All right. I'm just giving it so you know deep down that they really traveled by horseback. Rich people traveled by horseback, which the wise men were. Okay, moving ahead. We're going to talk a little bit about the star. All right. There are 5 interpretations of the star. Some say it's a comet. Some say it's a conjunction of Jupiter, Saturn, and Venus. Some say it's the apocryphal accounts, Proto-Evangelio of James and the infancy, and some say it's original church icons, and some say it's prophecies. All right, I get all stories on this. I'm going to go to number 2 first. Jupiter, Saturn, and Venus, the conjunction of the stars. To show you how timely this presentation is, that's happening right now while we're sitting here. That conjunction of the stars is happening. It happens, I think the last time it happened was 800 years ago, something like that. So I can look out my window here, it's right in the southwest. Okay, and you'll see Jupiter is the bigger star of the two, and right behind it is Saturn, and they're going to converge. And there was a famous astronomer by the name of Kepler. And Kepler, back at that time, Kepler found that there was a conjunction of Jupiter, Saturn, and Venus. Venus is the brightest star in the sky. That all 3 had lined up, and that could have been the star that that they followed. Excuse me. That could have been the star they followed. So you can go out there if you get, don't go now, wait till I'm finished. But you can go out there, and the 21st is the date, I think, that the final time, where they really merge. And look out there, and you can accept that. It says it very clearly in the Bible. It says it was a star, but there are other things that lead me to think there may be other things. Like here, now, what is wrong with this image? This is a Western art. This is not a Eastern Byzantine icon. Anybody want to take a stab at this? I haven't told you yet, so you probably don't know. First of all, it's showing them at a cave. All right, there's the 3 wise men at a cave. Well, they never got to the stable. All right, and I'll show you why in a minute here. And I can't figure out what these animals are. I don't know if that's a horse or a camel. It was like a combination. It's the weirdest thing. I think they meant to be horses, because it looks like the legs of a horse, and but that's the neck of a camel, I guess. I don't know what that is. So I don't know what they're portraying. All I know is that, but look what's back here. This is what I wanted to show you. That's a comet. So this old icon is showing a comet as the star the wise men were following. So, there's a lot of thoughts here. Let's move on. All right, the wise men never made it to the stable. They arrived 2 years later. Let me go to the next slide, and I can explain that. 2 slides down. And I did not cover this with you guys, right? All right, good. All right, here's Iran. Iran was Persia. That's where the wise men were from. Now, here's Iran, and here's Jerusalem over here. So you got north, south, east, west. So they went this way. So they went the west way. So if they were following a star in the east, they would have gone to China. And, or unless they walked backwards, I can't figure out how they would follow a star in the east. So, and it's 600 miles from here to Jerusalem, to Bethlehem, 600 miles. They could not have done that on Christmas Eve, okay, unless those camels could fly. They could not have made it on Christmas Eve. And that's why the icon shows them far away, off in the distance. So what happened here? Well, I've got the explanation for you. Okay. We got to go back to the Greek text to understand this now. If you look in the Greek text, the word for east is Anatoli. Anatoli. Okay. And that's correct. And that's what it says in the old, the Septuagint, not the Septuagint, that's the Old Testament. In the old, the original writings of the Gospels says Anatoli, which is east. It also means rising, to rise, Anatoli. Everybody stand up. So what a lot of theories are that the wise men were following a rising star, a morning rising star. And that makes sense because they're traveling across the desert. This is all desert area. I've been there. This is desert. Okay. So they were traveling through the desert, and they would travel in the morning hours, not in the afternoon, the hot heat, or the evening. And so they followed a star, you know, in other words, a rising star. So the rising star could be over here too. And that's why, and they followed the star. So that makes more sense. But 600 miles took them about 2 years. And they crossing the desert, you know, which at night, yeah, can be dangerous. Gets cold at night, sometimes in the desert. And it's, you know, there's snakes out there. There's and lack of water, you know, food. You know, there weren't any McDonald's out in the area at that time. So it was quite a journey for them to go. But, all right, let me go back now to this. So they could not have followed a star in the east, and the Gospels were written in Greek. The confusion comes from the misunderstanding of the Greek word for the east, which is Anatolia, right? I've covered all that. And yeah, as a matter of fact, I covered everything here. Now, this is the one that fascinates me. I discovered this one this year. And in studying the apocryphal books, it says, this is that when they're at the house of Mary, at the same time, there appeared to them an angel in the form of a star, which had before been their guide in their journey, the light of which they followed till they returned to into their own country. So that's saying it was an angel that led them. That's now again. This is the apocryphal book, so you're free to choose whichever answer you like best. Okay, I'm just giving you all the options here. God does this a lot, folks. When he wants to talk, when he does miracles, okay, he takes actual events, things that happen. The miracle is that it happens when he needs it to happen. Like when Moses crossed the Red Sea, there's a time of the year that you can walk across the Red Sea. It gets so low, and you can walk across the Red Sea. But at the time that when Moses was fleeing with the Jews from the Pharaoh, it was a full river there. And the miracle was that it got low enough that they could walk across. It parted, basically. So it was a natural event that occurs. It just parted. So, you know, God can do anything he wants. If he wants a star to rise in the morning and lead the shepherds, he can do it. All right. But it's interesting that there is some writings out there that we accept some things from the Proto-Evangelium. This is actually from the infancy, which is the second chapter after the Proto-Evangelium. Proto-Evangelium means first writing. And then it says, you know, that it went and a star which had appeared, an angel which had appeared to them, you know, before to guide them in their journey, was the star. So just some interesting facts here to confuse you even more. All right, so first, what do we learn from the wise men? We do learn something from all these events. They're very important. All right, here you got these wealthy men, you know, watching a star in the sky or an angel, whatever it is, or a comet, watching this and walking with it for 600 miles, leaving their families, leaving whatever they had there, their homes and everything, their wealth, they're very wealthy, leaving that with the faith that the star, because of the scriptures that they read, the prophecies, that the birth of the Son of God was happening in Bethlehem, and they wanted to be there with it. And so it teaches us the faith that we should have. Now we're always seeking out God, right? We're always seeking to have God with us and Christ. We're always seeking to be a part with Christ. We're all trying to be in the faith together. As the wise men, but to do this, what we have to do, we have to trust in the Lord to do the things, to follow him, to stay with him. So we have to have a deep faith like the wise men had, the faith to travel through a desert 600 miles at night with no place to stay, no lights other than the lights from the sky, the stars, the moon maybe. It wasn't a tremendous thing. Merely from their understanding of the prophecies, which we're going to look at shortly. Okay, and they also taught us about what Christ's concept was going to be. Christ would come to serve us. That was the whole thing with Christ. He wanted to serve us, and they did that by having gifts for the Christ child. And they brought gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And the whole story starts with giving of ourselves. After traveling 600 miles across the desert, the first thing they do is they give a gift to the child. Okay, they traveled that far to serve the Lord, and just interesting. So the wise men are important to the story. Okay, now I am sure I told you this story, right? This run to Egypt, Titus and Dumachus, the pirates. Julie's shaking her head yes, right? We did go over that. All right. So I won't go over that again. But here you see an angel leading them. Okay. There it is again. This is Joseph. And, if you want me to go over this story here, it's a beautiful story. I have time to tell it, but I don't want to take your time if I've told everybody. Joshua, do you remember me saying this? Mr. Kakinos?
Yes, I remember you saying it.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
It's
so
a
I did it.
lovely story, though, Jerry. You can tell it if
Yeah.
you want to.
All right, I'll tell it quickly. All right. I may go over 8 o'clock a little bit tonight, okay? Like I said, I've got to complete this. But here they are. They are told by Gabriel. Gabriel goes to Joseph. Here's Joseph. And he's told, take your family and leave now because Herod is going to kill all the children 2 years and younger. So take your children and go to Egypt. And they go to Egypt. And while they're crossing the desert, I told you it was a dangerous place. Titus and Dumachus, or two robbers, had their band of thieves there, and they attacked, went after Joseph and Mary. And when they went up to Mary to rob her of whatever she would have, and I don't know what they think she had, they saw Jesus and they looked at Jesus. And I always believe that the eyes of the Son of God had to be amazing because people just look at him and he just looks at people and people change, right? People have faith, people do things that they normally wouldn't do. And it's all because of the strength of his eyes, I think. And so the Titus looks into the eyes of Christ and he turns to Dumachus and says, look, these are good people, let them alone. He said, we'll find other people to rob. And Dumachus gets very upset and says, hey, that's what we do. That's our job. We rob people. So rob them. And Titus says, he says to Joseph, take your wife and your children and leave. And as they're leaving, he turns to Dumachus and says that he will give them, he will pay for the fact that he will give them money to Dumachus and the other robbers that they would have gotten from Mary and Joseph. And as they're leaving, Jesus says to his mother, mother, he says that I will repay this man for what he did to us today, for saving us today. And the Evangelo of James, the Proto-Evangelo of James, tells us that these two criminals were the criminals on the cross at the crucifixion. Titus was on his right and Dumachus on his left. And this is where Christ says to Titus that you will be with me today. And So Christ did honor his commitment to his mother that he would repay them. Okay. Wise men were traveling west to Bethlehem, so they couldn't see. We covered that. The gospel was written in Greek. We went over that. And I think I've covered. So that is why the Herod killed the children 2 years and younger, because when the wise men, by the time the wise men got there, it was 2 years later. And so that's why, as I said, the 2-year difference. Okay. And at the same time, there appeared to them an angel in the form of, we went over that. Okay, we went over that. Okay. So let's move on. And the field, all right, some pictures here. I'm going to tell you another story. There's Peter, Reinhardt, and Susan. Those of you know them. And this is the field where the shepherds saw the Virgin Mary. I'm sorry, where the shepherds saw the star. And I wish I could have had a picture of that for you, but there is none, of course. This is the best I can do. There's the angel, and there's I was leaning against, I don't know if you can see this wall here. I was leaning against this wall, just looking up in the sky. And I couldn't believe what I saw in the clouds. And Susan was walking by me, and I stopped her. I said, Susan, take a look up there. I said, what do you see? And she looked up. She goes, I can't believe it. It's a cloud in the shape of an angel. I kid you not. It was a perfect design of an angel. It was a cloud just floating by. And I wish I'd taken a picture of that too. But strange things happen when you go to Jerusalem. I hope you all get the opportunity to go. Our next trip with the bishop is going to be to Jerusalem whenever we're allowed to travel again. So maybe you can all hook up with us on that one and go with us. All right, let's talk about, let me go back to this. There's a church back here. Can you see it? Oh, I just lost it. There's a church in the background there, right over there. Okay, so we're going to go inside that church now. It's a beautiful church. And there's a tomb in there, in the wall. And this is the tomb of the shepherds. The shepherds were buried here at this church. It wasn't a church then, but this is where their burial grounds. There's the tomb, the cave. And if you look closer, I got a picture in front, you can even see the bones there. They have the bones right there. So you can venerate them. And the shepherds it's a very interesting part of this story, the shepherds. Why the shepherds? Well, look what you have. You have the wealthy, aristocratic, maybe wise men. And then you got on the other end of the scale, the shepherds, the guys that go out and watch the sheep at night. Now, the shepherds asked, there's writings that show that the shepherds asked their families to be, when they died, to be buried together in the spot where they saw the angels. So this is where the angel Gabriel came and spoke to the shepherds inside this church. Okay, the church wasn't there then, of course, but it's just an interesting thing. And there is in the apocryphal books the names of Misael, Achel, Stephanos, and Kyriakos for the shepherds, their names. So we can actually put names to them. It's kind of nice, isn't it? Rather than just say a bunch of shepherds. Okay, my battery's running low here. I thought I plugged it in. Give me a second here. I didn't plug my cable in here. My battery started running low. Okay. So the shepherds teach us that Christ came for everybody. The shepherds, the poor shepherds, the rich scientists, astronomers, they were Eastern astronomers. Christ came for everybody. So every part of the story is important. Now, what is this? This is not the actual, but a concept of where Mary and Joseph went. The inn, all right? They weren't inns, they were called caravansaries. Caravansaries is what they were called. You can see they got a lot of units, like a motel, all right? And this is where they would stay. And why was the, let's see, like the sign said, why was there no room at the inn? The time that they were traveling for the census, the date was probably because it was a holiday. It's called the Saturnella. Notice the name of the planet again, Saturn. The Saturnella was the national holiday then, and people were going back to their homes to visit their families. That's why the census fits perfectly into that timing, because everybody would be traveling back to their home. But that's why the place was filled up. And that's why they had to find the cave in the back, the stable, which is located behind here. All right, but this is the structure of the inn at the time that they would have seen. This is from a picture in Syria. Okay, they're called caravassaries, right? Okay, let's go. I'm going to take you now down to the actual manger scene site. This is the church of the Nativity. Okay, Helen the Great, Helen the mother of Constantine the Great, did some amazing things for our faith. She built churches over all the historical spots, and to this day they're still preserved. Now this one burnt down a couple of times, so they just rebuilt it. And they're all Orthodox churches, like the Church of the Resurrection, where Christ was crucified. She built that church. Okay, not literally, of course. I mean, she had people build it, but I mean, it was her, through her direction. When Constantine was emperor, he gave her that commission. He said, "Go out and build the churches," and she did. So let's go now. Now this is something I want to show you. You notice my wife is bowing down. This is Helen to get into the to the building. The woman in front of her is bowed down. Originally, these pillars were not there. This is where the doorway ended, up top here. You can see it's much higher. And what was happening is when the Muslims, the Muslims that were attacking Christianity in Jerusalem, they would ride their horses into the Church of the Resurrection of the Nativity, and they to prevent that, the priests, the monks, added these three pillars, so that it forces everybody to bow down to go into the church. Clever idea. So everybody, whether they're of the faith or not, have to bow down in respect to the birthplace of Christ. So let's walk in and. Okay, here we're just past the doorway. This is what you first see. And you don't see anything yet because it's all back here. This is the entrance to the manger back here in this area. This is where we're going to go next. This here, if you look down, you can't, of course. I wish I had taken a picture of it. It shows the underneath that they're excavating. The whole city is underneath the church. They're finding so much in the excavations and everything. So, let's see, this is the entrance to the walkway to the, but we already did that. We're inside the church now. So here they come, you come down the steps, and then there you are. Over here's the manger. I remember when I first went there, I was the last one. I had ushered make sure everybody got down the steps first. And I was walking some of the people down. These are very dangerous steps. Starts up here and walks down. And as soon as I got down and looked over here, Evelyn was with me. She was crying already. She spent the whole trip crying as we got to these spots. I'm telling you, they're knee-buckling events. To be standing there, and my first thought was, oh, there really is a manger. And I got so excited because, you know, now I knew my Christmas tree was right. So here's the manger, but over here is the spot where Christ was born. Let's see, here's the actual spot right there, where Christ was born. And then they moved him over to the manger. All right, we'll see pictures of the manger scene again shortly. Why is Herod called Herod the Great? You know, after he killed all these people, before he died, while he's on his deathbed, he was killing his family because he didn't want the sons to inherit, to take away his kingdom. He thought that they would usurp him, but he was dying. He killed his family, so he's not so great. And he killed all these children, his firstborn. Well, he was emperor, the head of the area, for 46 years. He really had a long, lots of activity there. Been around for a long time, 46 years. The reason he was put in charge was because he was half Jewish and half Roman. He was a citizen of the Jerusalem and a citizen of Rome, because children of Rome are all citizens of Rome. Back then they were. I don't know if that's still the case today. But they wanted him in there because he was half and half. And they wanted somebody who could mediate between the Jews and the Romans because of what happened around the same time in history, but before Christ, like in 2nd century BC, I believe, where there was a revolt of the Judas Maccabee family. You may have heard that name. And it's the Maccabean revolt. They revolted against the Romans. The Jews revolted against the Romans. And the Jews won that revolt. There were a lot of miracles that happened. And that date is significant because that is the date of Hanukkah. And that's the origin of Hanukkah. So the Roman emperors and everything did not want a recurrence of that kind of activity. They recognized that the Jews were fanatics when it came to their faith. So they put somebody in there who was of their faith, or at least or of their ancestry, Jewish. And that's why Herod was in there. And he was great because of what he did in 46 years. He built it into an incredible city. This wall here, the whole walls, they were built by, commissioned by him. And you've got this building over here with the tower. It's the Antonio. All right, the Antonio was named after Anthony and Cleopatra, that Antonio, all right? Sidney Burton and Elizabeth Taylor in the movie. And that's where everybody would stay. The Roman governors would stay when the ones that would travel to make sure everything was okay in Jerusalem. This is where they would stay. And the first one was Anthony, Mark Antony. And he was good friends with Herod. So that's why and Herod built this place here. It's called the Antonio today. It's still there. You can see that. He built the temple here. Now, this is the Muslim temple now that replaced it, the mosque, in the 5th century. Okay, that's when this was built. And prior to that, there was the Temple of Herod. And that was destroyed in I think the 7th century, year 7 AD. After Christ. Gotta check that date. It burnt down. It was destroyed by the Romans. That's when a lot of the Jews left and went to Masada. You've all heard of Masada. And it was at that time, so there was nothing there for a while until the Muslims came and they built this mosque there. So Herod built the original temple, not the mosque. Just for your information, right there is the Golden Gate, it's called. And that is where it's called the Golden Gate because the prophecy said the Messiah would pass through there. And Christ did pass through here at Easter, Palm Sunday. This is where he entered Jerusalem on Palm Sunday and went up to the temple at the time. Okay, this wasn't there then. But that's why he's considered the great, because he morally he was anything but great. This is the city of David outside the walls. This is where the Ark of the Covenant was originally placed. David had brought it there. David was not allowed to go to the Holy Temple site here because he had committed some sins. We'll go over that another day. I don't have enough time for that. And the sins, because of the sins, he was not allowed in there. And it was up to his son, Solomon, who moved the Ark of the Covenant from here to the temple here. And that's when it went to the spot of the temple where Christ would come in on Palm Sunday and overturn the tables and everything because they were surrounding the temple and the ark. Okay. All right, let's move on because I got a lot yet to go over. I got something very important now to go over, and I think that's next. All right, there's a picture of the manger scene. I don't know why that's here. I should have been up further. This is a subsequent trip. After the first one, they built this screen in front of it. I don't know why, unless people were sticking their hands in there. But there really is a manger, folks. Really is a manger scene, and I hope you all get the opportunity to see it. So let's go on. Like I say, I still got one more really significant area to discuss. There's two more areas. Okay, let's get to it. All right, the prophecies. This amazes me every time I see this. Look at the dates here. Hosea 11:1, circa around 2000 BC. Out of Egypt would come the leader of the Jews, out of Egypt. So it's predicting that 2,000 years before it happened. Isaiah 7:14 talks about a virgin shall conceive. Who in their right mind could think of a thought that a virgin was going to have a child and it would be the Son of God? I mean, who would think of something like that and make a prophecy 500 years before it happened, 700 years before it happened? Amazing. Malachi 3:1, I send my messenger. Who's the messenger? John the Baptist. Okay. Numbers 24:17, a star shall rise. All right, there it is, right there. A star shall rise. 2000 BC it was written. Micah 5:2, or somewhere around the 7th or 8th century. He would be born in, even where he's born in Bethlehem. And then the last one I have down there, Rachel weeping for her children. That's Rachel was one of the mothers that lost her children. That when Herod sent the soldiers out to kill all the children 2 years and younger, the firstborn children 2 years and younger, firstborn males. And Rachel, that was prophesied in Jeremiah 31:15. There are 37 prophecies prophesizing the birth of Christ. Amazing. I just find that so amazing. All right. Now, who is this gentleman? Who is this man? This is Nicholas the Wonder Worker. And Helen and I also had the wonderful opportunity of being at his church where his relics are. He was the Archbishop of Myra and much, much more than that. So those of you who have young grandchildren, you can tell them that you learned today that that's Santa Claus, okay? And we're going to take it step by step and you'll see. First of all, look at the garment, it's red, okay? And look at the surrounding, it's like the collar, or the white collar. He's got a white beard, okay? And he's got a story to go along with it, plus his name, Saint Nicholas. Okay, let's move on. This is his tomb site. His relics are in there, right in there. Okay, this is a picture I took there. And it's an interesting church, the Church of St. Nicholas. It's in Bari, B-A-R-I, Italy. It has two levels of church. The top level is the Catholic Church, and the bottom level is the Orthodox Church. But we have the relics, all right? The Catholics don't have the relics upstairs. They got to come down and visit our church to see that. All right, he was Bishop of Myra. His relics were moved from Myra on May 9th, 1097 to Bari, Italy. He was part of the First Council of Nicaea, 325 AD. That's one of the most important councils, the First Ecumenical Council, called by Constantine the Great. And he had an incident there. He was so upset because they were there discussing the controversy of Arianism, which said that Christ, the man, was separate than Christ, the God in heaven. And, so in other words, that when Christ was the man, he was not the God at all. It separated that aspect, and that is not part of our faith. Christ was Christ, Son of God and man at the same time. And he was so incensed, St. Nicholas, that he went up to A.R.E and he actually slapped him across the face. Now, this is very bad. No priest is allowed to hit another priest, especially bishops. And he was a bishop, and I don't think A.R.E was a bishop, though. He was just a priest. But anyhow, he slapped him, and he can't do that. And so they were faced with the fact they have to excommunicate him. They have to remove his, not excommunicate him, they have to remove his priestly rights. And defrock, that's the word I was looking for. And the ones that were going to do that, issue the decree to defrock him, had a dream that where Christ came to them in the dream and told them that St. Nicholas is a very good man and not to penalize him for what he did, because he did it for the love of me, Christ. He was incensed by what A.R.E was saying, which was a heresy. And so everybody loved him, and they were happy when they heard about the visions that they had, the dreams. And so they didn't remove him. He's continued to be a bishop, and he did some great things. He was the patron saint of children, travelers, merchants, sailors, and scholars. All right, now what about Santa Claus? Santa Claus evolved from, it's the Dutch name, originally they used the name for Santa Claus as Sinterklaas, as it's mentioned there, which was a shortened version of Saint Nicholas, the Dutch name for Saint Nicholas. So you can see the name fits per Santa Claus, Santa Saint Claus, Sinterklaas, Saint Nicholas. There it is. And there's another story, the dowries, and this is what adds to the story, the thought of a gift giving Santa Claus. This impoverished parishioner had 3 daughters, and in those days they all had to have a prika, we call it in Greek, to give to their courter, somebody who was courting them, their children, to marry them. They would give them money or some dowry, some animals, chickens or whatever. And this poor parishioner was very poor and had no money. So on 3 successive nights around Christmas time, St. Nicholas would come to the house and open the window and throw in a pack of gold in a bag. And he did it for 3 successive nights. So each daughter had their prika. Then they all got married. And there's lots of stories like this. Very little written from things that he had said or had done. But we have lots of stories on him. They were able to find some stories on him. So that, I can't believe it, but I think I've completed everything. Let's just review. I want to make sure I got it all right. We talked about Melchior, Balthazar, and Gaspar, right? Talked about them. Then we talked about the Eastern astronomers, right? That's what the wise men were. The run to Egypt, we discussed that. The ruler of Rome. Who was the ruler of Rome? Anybody remember that? You can unclick and let me know. Who was the ruler of Rome?
Caesar Augustus.
Thank you, Julie. All right, Julie gets a star. The year of the birth, we discussed that. Look at all these things we talked about tonight. The Church of the Nativity, we went over that. Just want to make sure I got it all. Herod the Great, all right? I should put Herod the Not So Great, because he was not that great. Rachel weeping, you know what that is, right? The mother of one of the slain children. Here's your caravassaries, the inn, the caravansaries, or the cave. And St. Nicholas, we just finished that. And Titus and Dumachus, we did talk about that. You also see the names Dismas and Gestas in some writings on these 2 criminals, robbers. It's the same person. I don't know, they had different names in some cases. Okay, remember who they are, right? We know who they are. Misael, Kyriakos, Achille, and Stephanos. They were the shepherds. And then we have the Annunciation and the Christmas date. All right, we went over that first. And then we have the star. And if I did this right, okay, you're going to see what if we did this right. If you look at the first letter of each line there it is. And if you can't read it, here it is again.